Good afternoon and welcome everyone. I think most of us have started. Um, my name is Jürgen Gafke. I'm with the SDG Localization uh, network of the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs. I'm honored to moderate this session today. But before starting, maybe some housekeeping and some reminders. First of all, we have AI interpretation available. Uh, Gaia, if you could share the link and the screen for the AI interpretation, please, so colleagues can open that up. If you basically find the link, we can also put that in the chat, or you scan the code here. You can open up the Wordly app, select your preferred language, and then you could get the text captions in your preferred language. If you want to listen, you can also unmute in the Wordly app, and then you can listen to in your language in AI translation. Just to recap very briefly, this is the second day, and welcome for joining the VLR-VSR Days. I see we still have some people trying to join. I hope that works. It was truly motivating to listen yesterday from the presentation. We had really cities from all kind of settings, small cities, associations, national governments, from small developing states like the Maldives, the Dominican Republic, and countries like Brazil with over 5,000 municipalities. So a variety of experience. And one takeaway from yesterday I would like to highlight is the need to step away from a sector-based approach and move forward to system approaches that needs to touch on multiple sectors. Before going into the details and the program of the session, I would also like to express my condolences to the family, friends, and colleagues of Sarah Höflich. It feels like yesterday that we are working with Sarah, and I think many of you have been working extensively with Sarah, developing training courses, working together in the evenings, having her online presence or in person. She was a true SDG localization champion, and we will miss her. So just to remember her for a moment. Now, starting session 3, I would first like to give the floor to my colleague, Ms. Carol Pollock, to give some brief introductory remarks. Many of you know Ms. Pollock as she has been a pioneer on voluntary local reviews and had supported many of the local governments present here in the endeavor to introduce this process in the municipalities. Carol, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Jürgen. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to colleagues joining us from around the world. On behalf of the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs, it's my pleasure to welcome you to day 2 and session 3 of the VLR-VSR Days. I'd like to begin by expressing our sincere appreciation to our partners, UN Habitat and UCLG, for their continued collaboration and leadership in advancing SDG localization and strengthening the global VLR and VSR movement. Their partnership has been instrumental in creating this important platform for peer learning, exchange, and innovation during the HLPF each year. I'd also like to thank in advance all of our panelists today who are joining us from so many different regions of the world. Over the past decades, voluntary local reviews and voluntary subnational reviews have evolved from an innovative practice into what has really been a global movement. Across all regions of the world, local and regional governments have embraced these reviews as powerful tools to assess progress, to strengthen accountability, to engage stakeholders from within your communities, and to bring the SDGs closer to those communities that you are serving. Yet, as the movement continues to grow, and as was mentioned during yesterday's sessions, we've gone in just really a few short years from having some 10, 20, 30 VLRs to now more than 500 VLRs that have been published around the world. And as this has happened, a critical question has come to the forefront, which is what happens after the review is completed? Because a VLR or VSR should not be viewed as the end of the reporting exercise. Much of its value lies in what follows: the findings, the recommendations, the partnerships that have been generated through these processes must be translated into outcomes, into concrete policies, into investments, and into actions that improve people's lives. So the post-reporting phase presents a strategic opportunity for local and regional governments to strengthen planning and implementation, to enhance policy coherence, to improve the use of data, and always to deepen citizen engagement to ensure participatory governance and ensure that nobody is left behind. So this is also an opportunity to build stronger collaboration across sectors and levels of government, as well as with civil society, academia, the private sectors, and our communities themselves, and to identify and enter into new partnerships. But at the same time, we recognize that turning recommendations into results is not always so straightforward. And many local and regional governments around the world continue to face challenges. Often, though we are from different countries and regions and locations, often there are some similarities amongst the challenges. These include limited institutional capacity, gaps in availability of data, disaggregated data, timely data, and then constraints in accessing adequate financing. Addressing these barriers requires local leadership, but also supportive national frameworks, stronger multi-level governance, and sustained political commitment. It also requires partnerships that provide the resources and tools that are needed to drive implementation. And this is why today's session is so important. We're going to focus on how local and regional governments are institutionalizing VLRs and VSR processes and translating the findings from these into tangible policies and outcomes, ensuring that reviews become catalysts for stronger planning, for implementation, and monitoring. So ultimately, the goal is for VLRs and VSRs to serve not as one-time reports, but really as living processes that foster collaboration and informed decision-making and drive systemic, scalable, and lasting change in support of the 2030 agenda. So we are really looking forward to learning today from the presenters and from the discussion about your experiences and your insights. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carol. Indeed, just another short remark. Thank you for giving some remarks about the context of the session today and what really we focus on, what we do in the steps after the VLRs. I see that many colleagues have joined by now. I would like to ask if you feel like to share who is here, that you can put your name, where you come, what community, what government you represent. You can put that in the chat. So if you have an idea of who is here today, and that gives us an idea. Also, Gaia, if you could just share the screen on the agenda before we go into the next presentation. So just we had the introductory remarks by Carol. We are going to go with Toboko over setting the scene. Then we have presentation from Mbabane, as well as a presentation from the German Association of German Cities and the city of Stuttgart. We have a Mentimeter where we ask you a question, what we can reflect. And then we have the dialogue 2, where we go on how do we overcome challenges in the area of data, finance, capacity gap, and maybe other gaps and challenges we had in the follow-up. And there we have presentation from South Africa, Zambia, as well as from Almaty, Kazakhstan. And then we can come to the closing. Thank you, Gaia. I think that's we can now start with the next setting the scene, and I would like to invite Tebogo Matlu from the South African Local Government Association. Tebogo and Salga have supported many local governments in South Africa in the presentation of their VLR reports. And beyond that, he has shared the experience with other African countries, either by joining some of our workshops organized by the partners present here, or at regional and global forum where he shared what lessons learned the communities in South Africa has. Tebogo, you have the floor.
Good morning to all, and good afternoon to others. I will. Can you share my presentation there? And it's good to see you again, colleagues, to talk about this work that we are doing. And indeed, I have only 5 minutes to put my presentation there. But however, with that being said, as an organization, indeed, for now we just hit 30 of the VLR for 2020. Yes, you can move to the next slide, Carol. Yeah, so what we've done is that VLR South Africa have become tools for planning in an investment and accountability, not just the reporting. So we're putting municipalities, which is costly anyway. But as I said, we're hit 30 now. We're supposed to be hitting around 33, 34. But we don't just accept any report. We go through it, we do validation, and we have a methodology to meet the standards. So if it doesn't meet the standards, we leave it behind, and we provide support. So findings are integrated into what we call integrated development plan. Now, because there's a district development model and one plans, and we had few districts that for the first time have reported on voluntary local reviews, but also looking at performance management system, whether the municipality is doing well or not. One of the things that we have done is that our national and provincial capacity building programs have strengthened municipal implementation of the SDGs. But as Salga chairs one of the working groups, which is 6, 7, 11, and 17, because partnerships, even is not directly there, it gives us an advantage to work with Stats SA to prepare what we call country report. And we're working with department, and that department is core for the SDG 6 now because they are already in New York, and they are going to present the work. And we've been working with Mark as a deputy from Stats SA. Unfortunately, because of the time, we've appointed Dr. Sandile, but while we're working with him on the other side, we have developed already now a Salga municipal hub, especially for data question that I got as part of this. So people can click on it. You will see the municipalities that are part of the program and on their data on which SDGs they are reporting on. But it's now a prototype. We hope by the time we meet at the national working workshop in October or September, I think October, we'll be able to give you a full view of that data hub, which does assist us. But the takeaway is that local evidence is influencing municipal planning, budgeting, and national policy. You can move to the other slide. So this is how we're doing it as part of the interventions, is that data and planning, development of local SD indicators, which is part with Stats SA, strengthening municipal evidence system, linking municipal data with national SDG reporting. One of the core of the current project, because we realize we've done in 2024, but this program integrated what we call infrastructure. And why infrastructure asset management into SDG implementation is to understand the infrastructure condition, because they will also provide services. And while we are building new infrastructure, it means whom are we doing it for? So we are including the gender lens, but also prioritize maintenance and renewal as part of the long-term service delivery. Finance and bankable projects, what we do now, once you get your report, we analyze the report, and we look at municipal opportunities and advantages that you can have. How we did it now when we're giving them a feedback, we look at how to develop infrastructure projects, climate resilient project, local economic development initiatives, and it's part of our SDG games that we play. I know, Carol, we have played the game. We focus on three things: it's environment, society, and economy. So the three are part of the work that we are doing. But recently now, we were part by UN to develop what we called Municipal Resilience Territorial Transformation Program as part of the SDG program, which is going to be how we develop funding and bankable project as part of the work that we're doing. So that's the work that we're doing. And from this SDG program, we initiated a project called Salga Planning, where it's a municipal urban planning and is now getting attraction. We have it after 2 years. So it's part of the work that from the initiative when we start in 2024, we initiated projects that are also seeing value in the World Urban Forum, in Africa Urban Forum. But it's through this work that we're doing also with UN Habitat. But the baseline, what we started with UNDESA and UNDP, it's showing now that there is some work. International peer learning and job shadowing programs, we just also had a partnership with Germans as accelerating the implementation. And we took 10 cities to Germany to go and share while Salga's sharing on VSR. We established what we called a global VSR VLR global network in partnership with other partners. And UCLG is also providing support on how Salga support to do VSR. So there is progress post 2024 until now. You can move to the next one. So this is how we're doing it, building capacity, partnership, and scaling important. The work that we've done also with Zimbabwe, Namibia, Zambia, and Mozambique. And recently now, we're supposed to be, but we send municipalities to go and participate in Congo, where Rustenburg was part of the work. So we are sharing this work on digital transformation infrastructure, but the knowledge exchange is very key. We have a program which called Salga Connect program, which also does this work as part of the peer learning between municipalities. I spoke about also Salga and Skill, where we share innovative solutions and good practice, but connecting municipalities with experts and partners and resources. DBSA is part of us now. We spoke to MISA on infrastructure last week. They are keen to see there is light while we're doing this kind of a work. The last slide.
Yeah, if you come to an end soon, please.
Yeah, so this is it's an investor pitch that we provided in Bilbao as part of how. So 2 of 3 cities are part of the SDG program where we are linking them with investors. So as Salga presented with UN and DBSA to say these are the projects that we think part of the SDGs are going to make an investment impact areas: water security, clean energy, climate resilient, circular economy, and social inclusion and jobs. And eThekwini is also part of it, including Drakenstein. So there are the municipalities that we identified, but it's because of what we have analyzed in that particular part. The last slide, so that I finish my time. But one of the key messages that while South Africa shows the experience, we need to create the greatest impact is when we are enabling in planning system, supported by capable institution, as I said, the one that are core on the SDGs, but connected to investment opportunities and strengthened through partnership. Local governments are where the SDGs become reality. NB, almost 70%, colleagues, I'm repeating this, targets are happening in local government, and municipal infrastructure assets are key to accelerate the SDG implementation. So without partnership is going to be a core. And as I said, we don't just accept a report. We need to look at what is the impact, what is the outcome of the report that we've done. Thank you very much, Mr. Holger.
Thank you. Thank you, Tiboko. Thank you for setting that. We are running a little bit behind schedule, so please try to keep it within the 5 minutes. May I now introduce Ms. Xiniwe Fakudze. She is the first female CEO in Eswatini, the CEO of the city of Mbabane in Eswatini. Mbabane and 6 other cities in Eswatini have embarked on a VLR exercise in 2015 in parallel or in conjunction with the VLR exercise by Eswatini, who presented last year. But for Mbabane, this was not the end of the process. It triggered quite a number of initiatives. And I'd like to invite Ms. Xinivivi Akutsi. You have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jürgen, and thank you for attempting to pronounce my name. I know it's a bit of a tongue twister there, but you get 8 out of 10 for that effort. Colleagues, thank you for affording us this opportunity to equally share our experiences as a Swatini. I'm trying to share on my end as quickly as I can so that I maximize on the time that I've been given. Joachim, can you see my slides on your end?
Yes, we can see it.
Wonderful. So what I will try and do as quickly as possible, and thank you for the presentation, South Africa. It has given a very good backdrop and concept to really what I'm going to approach and what I'm going to say. So Carol, your words rang true. Reporting to action, that is what is very key. So moving beyond the reporting phase, it's really been a journey. And as a Swatini, we are happy to navigate it together and guided by a ministry, of course, that is responsible. But why the acceleration really? So as Mbaban, we took time after the VLR of 2025 to sort of then find the immediate actions that we needed to focus on. And I think the pillars that I've highlighted, they were some of the pillars. And I think what happened at that point was, like Deboho is saying, with 70% of SDGs being implemented at the local level, the viewing the local from that macro lens for the first time was quite interesting, because there's issues like poverty that at a local level, yes, we have a direct impact on, but we were not measuring them. So after the first VLR, we realized that 15.9% of our residents have serious issues around poverty. Some have got issues of land ownership. Tenure is a very critical thing. 32% of our residents are in formal settlements. We looked at the youth pillar and link it to education and training and opportunity. We looked at the vulnerability aspects of our communities, environment issues, and some of the pressures that we are now seeing at the municipal level coming from climate change and issues around urbanization. So really the question of institutionalizing everything became important. We started embedding the goals that we were tracking from a VLR perspective, and we immediately realized that that is going to require a policy shift. So we needed to integrate that. And South Africa talks about IDPs budgeting. It is very similar to us. So when we talk about policy integration, that is literally what we now needed to do. We looked at our IDP, our operational budget, and then our urban planning cycles as well, and tried to make sure that this fit quite clean into that whole VLR monitoring schedule. Now, some of the accelerators that we then picked up from the SDGs and some of the things that we're now focusing on, really SDG governance. How do we integrate that? How do we institutionalize that? How do we make sure that our budgets are informed by what we have? But secondly, we realize that our data and management of data is very important. I'm happy that South Africa has shared a link. I'm really going to go to it, Deboho, and try and learn as quickly as we can, because data laboratories and how you manage data, how you disaggregate data together, how you keep your data, how all your systems speak to each other is very important, but not only at local, but also at regional and at central. So how that information is accessed. Issues of our youth and how we grow entrepreneurship in our community, that became very important after the SDG exercise. The Green Urban Development Framework, and how we're going to look at that, our informal settlements, issues around circular economy, issues around how we're treating our wetlands, scaling up renewable energy projects, creating jobs in green jobs and in the whole ecosystem became very important. And almost finally, issues around strategic partnerships. We cannot stress strategic partnerships over and over and over again. And what we appreciate about this platform is that it emphasizes on the need to synchronize and to become a collective genius in terms of strategic partnerships and how you approach the SDGs. So now what we are doing in the actions that we have put in place as a local authority to drive and accelerate SDG implementation, smart city digital infrastructure, we've put that in place. We have a smart city agenda, a 5G acceleration program, and really making sure that we're using our data and enabling what we're trying to do. Digital transformation of our municipal services. We're coming up with digital self-service platforms, online system, payment portals, using all touch points in a way to sort of make sure that we serve our citizens. Social and environmental initiatives, we're also doing a whole lot of that. Governance and international recognition. And that really speaks to agile governance reforms that we're doing, bringing in the smart city framework that we are driving as a city, but linking all of that and having it inform our VLR. Now, the call to action really, in terms of fast tracking the SDGs in Durban, it requires our focus on three key priorities: jobs, inclusive urban development, and strong partnerships. So we're institutionalizing the SDGs, we're investing on smarter apps and smarter platforms and smarter use of data-driven decision-making tools. Three, creating. We need to create jobs. We need to integrate the youth in our economy. We need to integrate women in our society. Build. We're building circular and green economies in cities, making sure that waste is generated, but not only generated, recycle it, we reuse it, and we create an economy around our waste. And finally, we're expanding, making sure that our city remains inclusive. And from a resource mobilization, we're using the SDGs and the frameworks and the information that we're gleaning from that to inform how we're growing as a city. Thank you very much. I was speed talking. I hope I'm within my time. Thank you.
You were perfect, and my apology for trying to learn the name pronunciation. I should be better. But I take that really impressive talk on how we need to engage innovative solutions and inclusive solutions, working with partners and trying to move forward on sustainable development in all dimensions, from working with partners, addressing the social, environmental, as well as the economic dimension of sustainable development, and in a way that it's sustainable, not that our projects start and then that cannot be maintained. Thank you again. Now I would like to introduce two colleagues from Germany, Ms. Sabine Drees from the Association of German Cities, dem Deutschen Städtetag, and Ms. Bettina Bunk from the city of Stuttgart. Germany recently produced the third VSR, and showing the progress of local governments that Germany have achieved in the past 5-6 years since the first VSR. As well as Stuttgart has recently, also in 2015, I believe, produced their fourth VLR. So there's quite a experience accumulated over the last years, and I would like to invite Ms. Sabine Drees first for your presentation. Sabine, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jürgen. So, as you have already said, so I'm here together with my colleague from Stuttgart, Bettina Bunk, and she will share with you some impacts on how the Stuttgart VLR will be transformed into local practice. My approach is a little bit more general, so it's not beyond VLR, but beyond Agenda 2030 that I'd like to share with you. So I quickly start the presentation. So is it visible?
Yes,
Okay.
we can see it.
So the idea is how to enhance municipal visibility and how to strengthen local governance within the new Agenda 2030 beyond. We should consider, I think, and I think it's a good starting point now, as next year there will be the official start of defining Agenda 2030 beyond. And we were thinking about what should stay the same and what should be reconsidered. So I find it's a really very good approach, the universal approach, including the global north, and that there are no priorities, for example, that all the goals and sub-goals value the same. And the idea is that just on a municipal level, the priorities can be negotiated, and that's the reason why municipalities are so important and should be strengthened. So there are many considerations, many trade-offs, within SDG 11, for example. I give you only one example. One goal is less ceiling, another goal is more infrastructure, and these goals also need to be negotiated on a local level. then I want to share with you an idea, and it's for sure that 70% of the goals and sub-goals cannot be achieved without municipalities, but we focus a little bit on SDG 11 as the city's goal, and we recommend to advocate that the SDG 11 should be shaped by municipalities. So there is, for example, the possibility to also integrate the very important new goal, then enhance local self-government on the basis of financial autonomy. It could be a sub-goal. It could be a sub-goal under SDG 11, but also under the umbrella of SDG 16, strong institutions. We find it very, very important to strengthen local governments structures, even within the architecture of the Agenda 2030. And even stronger advice could be a new SDG 11, so maybe strong cities and settlements with sub-goals. One sub-goal again should be then enhancing local government. It could stay the same: inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable cities and settlements. So we also think, so right now there are only some civil services addressed, just like public transport, affordable housing, less ceiling. There are many other civil services really important to us, such as waste management, energy, or water. So it could be a good idea to expand the important civil services and not to limit them to these sub-goals. What are our key messages? So without local self-government, the goal of resilient and sustainable cities cannot be achieved. So it should be addressed. Conflicts of interest can only be resolved at a local level. And it's an idea that SDG 11 must be shaped by local authorities and their associations, such as CMR and UCLGs, our umbrella associations. And we want to say that we would like to focus on SDG 11, saying that SDG 11 belongs in local hands. So this is my quick intervention. And here I'd like to hand over to Bettina Bunk from Stuttgart.
Thank you very much, Sabine, for this deep dive into Agenda 2030 beyond considerations. Before I bridge the gap between Agenda 2030 beyond, VSR and VLR, please allow me to address the elephant in the room. We are living in multiple times of multiple international crises at the level of municipalities, additionally aggravated by severe budget crisis. Sustainability discourses and practical policies face backlashes. The challenge, therefore, is how do we turn these crises into a positive momentum, and specifically, how can we use the contribution of VLRs, VSRs in the post-reporting phase as a catalyst for systemic, scalable, and sustainable change? I'll address these questions at two levels. The case of the German Voluntary Local Government Review of 2025 and the case of the VLR in Stuttgart. First, in 2025, Stuttgart, together with Bonn, Mannheim, and Hamburg, initiated an independent voluntary local government review, as we call our VSR, which was prepared by the German Institute of Urban Affairs and supported by the German local government associations. This contribution got taken up by federal government and was clearly visible in the 2025 third voluntary national review. Today, it is even regarded as its next evolutionary step of vertical integration by federal government. One challenge now is to get the VSR recommendations and a meaningful local government participation taking up for the Agenda 2030 Beyond discussions in multi-level governance. Based on our VSR experience, we aim to unite again the initiative of front-runner municipalities in collaboration with the German Association of Cities to come up with practical and strategic recommendations. And I believe the credibility, professionality, and access channels to federal government established through our experience with the VSR are definitely going to support this approach. Secondly, the case of the VLR in Stuttgart. In 2025, as Jürgen said, we were the first municipality in Germany to submit the fourth voluntary local review to the HLPF. And in our case, it is closely linked to the biannual budgeting process. Right now, we are carrying out the process of the fifth VLR to be launched in 2025. In times of severe budget cuts for German municipalities and tendencies to put sustainability lower on the agenda, we want to turn these challenges into strategic steering opportunities by using VSRs and VLRs. I specifically like to address this aspect. The aim is, in the case of Stuttgart and beyond, to show how the data and information of the VLR can actually help us to achieve an even more impact-oriented resource allocation of limited finances by prioritizing strategic fields of action according to sustainability criteria following the SDGs. And this may contribute to changing the discourse narratives and therefore also action from deficit orientation, put bluntly, no money for sustainability, into we achieve more meaningful social, ecological, and economical sustainability by targeted resource allocation for future-oriented transformation. Given the challenging global geopolitical situation and setbacks for the 2030 agenda, we need to go beyond the exchange and development of monitoring tools. We need to strengthen local government diplomacy, which builds on personal relationships and trust, and develop strategic, systemic proposals for local government participation, supported by the necessary resources, aligning fiscal systems and international financing with the needs of local and regional governments. Therefore, I'm looking forward to our future exchange, joining hands as local governments internationally via UCLG, UN Habitat, UNDESA, and the Local2030 Coalition to speak with one strong voice to participate meaningfully in a timely, comprehensive, and direct manner in the Agenda 2030 Beyond process. Thank you very much.
Thank you, both of you, for the excellent presentation. Maybe taking that also as an initiative, and I hear from Sabine that we have the discussion on the post-2030 agenda is starting about now, but the main subject really is going to be next year in the 2027 SDG Summit, where it's more formally started when it comes to the discussion of the post-2030 agenda and the initiatives, and that's a member state-driven process. So we're really looking forward to get the input from Germany and other countries in this process. Just on the SDG 11 and what you mentioned there regarding more autonomy, I may want to hint to the principles on effective governance for sustainable development. You may have heard of it. It's from the Committee of Experts on Public Administration. Is a network what DASA supports, and the subsidiarity principle there also touches particularly on that, and that we also have several colleagues who are working on that, providing support to that. So just a reminder on this thinking what you have elaborated is actually very timely, and we are many experts from around the world are pushing for more autonomy and for the municipalities. But in order to get more responsibility, what we also found out in some of the presentation what we hear today, we also need more, we need to build capacity at the local level to really assume and push for that. I think many of these local government are working particularly on the gaps, and that comes to the next question: what is really preventing us when it comes to moving forward? What are the main challenges, barriers to move forward? And I would like to seek more overview. We have prepared a very small Mentimeter question where we can poll, and we would ask all of you to, all participants, to take a moment, try to scan this to access Mentimeter and see how you can answer that question. What do you see as main barriers, as main challenges for the follow-up to the VLR, or more general, what are the main challenges to advance the SDG at the local level? If I give a couple of minutes that you could try to start up the Mentimeter. And may I just ask Matteo if he has some feedback on what answers we have received. Thank you.
100%. Thank you very much, Jürgen. Yeah, it's very interesting. I see some answers coming in. Let me share the screen and you should be able to see them too. Can you confirm?
Yes.
Perfect. So the first answers are in, and I see some very interesting concepts and some very well-known challenges. I see right there in the middle, big word that comes there, it's funding. So local finances that are adequate to the mandates and to the responsibilities of local governments is a strong issue that we have to solve all together. Also, data and capacity. We had a session on that last year in the last VLR-VSR Days. There's going to be, I think, a panelist in the second dialogue of this session that's going to go more in depth in terms of data. There is coordination, there is institutionalization, territorialization, all these big words that in the end are simple concepts, giving the instruments to local governments to work well, to work with other actors, and especially to work with other levels of governance. I see indeed multi-level governance. I see political will, and I think this is really important, especially because we are more than 80 people coming from all around the world in this call, so we surely represent this willing side of the municipalist movement, and we need to keep pushing and to keep producing VLRs, to keep producing VSRs, to keep putting localization as a local priority. Let me see, I'm going to pick one last word. I see that one word is trust, and I think this is really interesting because we have seen that through VLRs and VSRs, especially meaningful trusting connections are created between local governments, stakeholders, and the local population. And this trust is fundamental to follow up the VLRs and the VSRs with concrete actions that can last in time and that can go beyond a political mandate. So I will leave it like right there. But again, thank you very much for all the contributions, and let's work together on these challenges.
Thank you, Matteo, and thanks everyone to give some input. And this is really a reflection on what are the challenges. It's a great exercise, and I really appreciate it. We got quite a number of feedback from the participants here. We will have at the end of the session just a couple of minutes on Q&A. I saw in between there was a hand raised, but let's leave that maybe to after the next session where we can address more questions. But exactly for that, I think we have now 3 presentations where we are looking at what are the challenges and what has been done to overcome these challenges. It's not covering all of these areas. Yesterday, when you saw the follow-up, we had several introductions also at some when we start follow-up actions that we need to look on a longer term, that the processes, the projects we start up go beyond legislative cycles and voting cycles, where when governments change, that projects don't lose momentum, and that we need to have the financing and other means behind. But let me now introduce Mr. Mumba Mbappe from the Lusaka City Council. He was part of the technical teams that prepared the city's first VLR and also led work on assessing the city's municipal fiscal space. He currently partnering with ECA and the national government on improving the financial performance and other local councils in Zambia. Can I ask Mumba, you have the floor, please.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Good morning. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so I'll give you the experience of Lusaka City Council post-VLR. All right. So basically, our VLR showed us that financing the SDGs is not simply about having more resources, but some of the real challenges which we had is making informed investment decisions in the face of competing development priorities, as well as limited resources and also fragmented data or evidence. So the VLR helped us shift from focusing only on accelerating our resource generation and also on resource constraints, but also to focus on better informed investment decisions. And it equally provided us with the evidence needed to prioritize our efforts on areas which need the actual implementation of our resource. It also helped us to strengthen coordination across government departments, other stakeholders who are equally implementing SDGs, like NGOs, CSOs, and also give us a platform to identify opportunities for strategic partnerships with various stakeholders within our jurisdiction. So this changed our approach. Instead of the usual of asking ourselves, where do we improve to increase our revenue generation, but the question changed now to how do we make better use of the resources which we already have, and also find other ways of mobilizing additional support to ensure that we can achieve what we've intended to implement with the limited resource which we have, as well as with an informed perspective or an informed data set which will deliberately enable us to achieve where there is actual need. Okay, yeah, I can go to the next slide. All right, so the VLR was it was developed on the overall strategic framework of our integrated development plan. Okay, so our IDP sets out what we want to achieve as a local authority. It gives the framework of the areas which we need to work on a particular period. It runs for 10 years. After that, you need to renew the IDP. Then the viewer, on the other hand, assessed our progress towards achieving the sustainable development goals and highlighted key areas requiring greater investment interventions. So these the findings from the VLR, the finding from the VLR helped us to formulate the current budget, the 2026 budget for Lusaka City Council. This helped us to better align our resource allocations towards particular SDG priorities. Then we also set out, we formulated a VLR strategy, implementation strategy deliberately, which mirrors some of the outputs which we had budgeted for in our annual budget. So now as we are implementing our budget alongside reviewing the VLR implementation strategies, we have gained a number of insights on how to better implement or rather fund our our priorities towards SDGs. And some of the findings or some of the insights which we've collected is that we cannot achieve everything on our own as a local authority. We need extra interventions from various partners to come on board so that we share a common goal and implement as a whole, unlike relying on the resource of the local authority to achieve our SDGs. The partnership opportunities. So some of the partnership opportunities which we have identified are now being deliberately incorporated in our formulation process of the 2027 annual budget for Lusaka City Council. So now we're trying to leverage on some of the insights which we have achieved in implementing our 2026 budget alongside the VLR implementation strategy to see how best we can bring other stakeholders on board to assist us achieve the priorities of our SDG implementation at a local level. So we're not basically moving away from what we've set out, but we're just bringing in people now to appreciate and also assist us in achieving these goals. Okay, we can go to the next slide. Okay, so some of our key lessons from the post-VLR review. I think I came up with 5 practical lessons which we can look at and appreciate. So the first one is to use evidence to prioritize investments, especially where resources are limited. I think from the Mentimeter which we just participated in, we saw that funding was highlighted. It's one of the constraints which most local authorities face in accelerating the implementation of SDGs. So instead of using it as a constraint, rather we can now be more lean with our resource. Achieve more with less. Then second is to integrate the VLR findings directly into municipal budgeting so that the development priorities are reflected in our resource allocation. Rather than just having a plan isolated from the actual implementation. We usually like saying here in Lusaka that having a plan without a matching budget is basically wishful thinking. All right, so then third, we need to use the VLR to identify where partnerships can complement municipal financing rather than expecting local governments to finance every intervention from its own resource envelope. Okay, then fourth is to strengthen planning and financial management systems so that decisions are supported by reliable data and also have continuous monitoring. Then finally, we need to treat the VLR as a continuous process. It does not end at coming up with a report or launching the report, but it should be a continuous process which informs our current planning as well as our future planning. It should inform our budgeting preparation, our budgeting documentations. It should also inform our implementation as well as our resource allocations. So basically, our takeaway is that overcoming financing gaps is not only about mobilizing additional resources, but it is about making better investment decisions, strengthening partnerships, and ensuring that every available resource delivers the greatest possible impact for sustainable development. Thank you very much. I hope I've done it within the 5 minutes, Stephen.
Thank you very much. That was in the time limit. I would like now to introduce Ms. Brenda Strachan. She is the manager of spatial and environment planning at the city of Umlaluze. My pronunciation is very bad. In South Africa. Umlatuse, I don't know, Umlatuse, I have to see how I pronounce it, prepared its first VLR in 2024 and has repeated the process annually since then. Ms. Strachan will share with us the city's experience in overcoming data-related challenges and reporting on advancing sustainable development. Ms. Strachan, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. I'm going to try and share my screen. Okay, and just to that mode. I trust that is it correct now? I trust.
We see, yes, this is perfect.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the introduction and thank you very much for the organizers. And I must say, I'm so happy to see so many colleagues from South Africa, as well as familiar faces that we've actually been introduced to and engaged on throughout the world when we talk about this topic. In terms of the municipality that I work for, Mhlathuze, when we started this process in 2024, we just again got to the realization that the SDGs are deeply entrenched in our daily work as local government. And basically, local government provides basic services. So by virtue of that, immediately SDG 6 and 7, 11 just pops up because that's what we do. Housing, waste removal, energy, water, etc. So our first VLR, we looked at number 6, 7, 11, and 16 to report on, because it was information that we have so readily available. And also, if you look at that image I've shown there, on the left there are six little paragraphs, and they actually are the key performance areas of all municipalities in South Africa. They talk about organizational development, service delivery, local economic development, good governance, finances, and cross-cutting issues. And the alignment between those and the SDGs are clear in that table with the SDGs numbered 1 to 17 there. On the right-hand side of the slide is just a little bit of a picture to share with everybody on the call who we are and where we come from, as well as noting that we've got just over 400,000 people in our municipality, and we have the biggest seaport in terms of volumes in the Southern Hemisphere. If we look at the topic, zooming in on data sources and data gaps, there's a lot of data available in the municipal space, but we don't always realize this. We have what in South Africa, all municipalities have an indigent register, which is a register which helps us to assess households that are actually living in poverty. And these registers are available and are treated with the necessary protection of personal information, but they have the opportunity to actually share with us, not just regarding SDG 1, but they can share information for us on various of the other SDGs, access to water and electricity being one. Importantly also, some targets and indicators for SDGs are available from our central government sources, like the Stats SA. Specifically, many indicators and targets for SDG 6, 7, and 11 are provided by such. And also what Mr. Matlau mentioned about the data portals that are being developed. But also, I think what's exciting is that when we look at other SDGs in the South African context, like 13 and 17, it gives us a matter of creativity to derive targets and indicators for ourselves based on what we are actually doing with, and I will share a few of those. Also, as municipalities, we must never underestimate our annual reports. They contain audited information, validated information, so there's a lot of information on our capital expenditure, our employment, specifically now looking at SDG 16 in those. Now, data gaps. Some of the targets and indicators that we have are domesticated, localized, because the data sources are only available locally. For example, in our municipal space, that graph I've given you there at the top looks at metered consumption of electricity customers. And you can see the variations emerging in that graph, and that actually talks to situation on ground. It talks to periods of electricity crisis in our country, the recovery of that, and then also the yellow line shows how the dependency on alternative energy sources has changed over time. And that's information that's typical to us as Mhlathuze, but we can respond to that in our own capital planning. Also, we also have on these images, you can see we have initiatives regarding SDG 11, specifically on environmental matters regarding air quality. Now, we know that the SDGs prescribe PM 2.5 and PM 10 as measurements, but for us as Umhlatuze, we have the incidence of dust, which doesn't get classified under those. So we actually do dust monitoring and dust measurements as well. And on the right-hand side, you can see when it comes to climate change or climate action, SDG 13, we've initiated a number of public information sharing sessions and forums that actually assist us to report and create our own dashboard for SDG 13 in specifically. On the next slide, and which is my last slide, Mr. Chair, I realize you are limited with time. In terms of how the SDGs can strengthen our planning, our monitoring and decision making, we must be creative on the format of data that we capture and our record keeping. Information is there and we must just look at it with a new lens to change that. As municipalities, we actually do legal reporting on various factors, and I've listed them there. We report on climate action, air quality, energy, waste management, water, and sanitation. And those reports are available for us to feed into our SDG VLR reporting. We have existing forums, and many of these forums have their origin many years ago, but also when we were honest with ourselves and said we need to engage more and need to have bigger partnerships. And those forums have now developed into spaces where we can share information and access good ideas. One of them being on clean air. We have a very active forum with our local NGO on clean air, and we have verified data from that source. Various platforms are available to report problems, associated services. Again, that can be used as an information source or data source. We are working to internalize SDGs into our project cycles, our prioritization cycles. For example, our capital expenditures, to also see how our investment is making a difference to our reaching our SDGs. If I can maybe speed up. Also, we find it important not to duplicate reporting. I think all local governments here say that can agree that we are over in our heads with reporting, and it's important not to duplicate, but rather just to expand existing frameworks. We have a very good system called the SDBIP. It's called Service Delivery and Budget Implementation Plan. And just by adding 1 or 2 columns to that reporting mechanism, we can assist in our SDG data reporting as well. And these are all audited documents at the end of the year. Alignment and integration with other processes, safety and security measures, horizontal and vertical alignment. As a country, we are pursuing improved vertical alignment. We've got what we call a district development model structure, where local government and all government departments are trying to meet each other around the table to talk and engage on matters of service delivery. As I indicated, local government is at the coalface. We have to respond to challenge and we have to be creative, and that is actually an opportunity, and that's where we can all share these learnings and suggestions. I think as a last comment, I would just like to say that we have to acknowledge that we all have challenges within our municipalities, and if we didn't have challenges, there would be no need for us to pursue the SDGs. So I think one of the first steps we have to do is agree and acknowledge that we have challenges, and then we can find a way to find a solution for those. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. This was very helpful to see how we do that. I also see, as you said, information is there, but we need to have a look from a new perspective, from a new lens. I think that's also there. We have information. Maybe we need to look at where the information is there, that we have to work on partnerships, as also the colleagues from South Africa mentioned. Now I would like to introduce the last set of speakers. Let me introduce Mr. Berik Alimov from Almaty, Kazakhstan, and my dear colleague, Mr. Javier Torner. Mr. Berik Alimov is the manager in the analytics department of the Almaty Development Center, and he had contributed to evidence-based analysis and strategic planning that supports Almaty sustainable urban development. Mr. Alimov was part of the team presenting Almaty's VLR and has presented the center in various international discussions. And I also have Javier Tonnier. He's with ECA, but previously also with Habitat, and he is a specialist in urban planning, has contributed to a variety of projects, publication in a wide area of subjects on SDG localization. Maybe I ask Javier to start first, and then Javier, you may pass the floor to Beric. Just keep in mind that we are running a little bit behind time, so if you have a joint slot.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Jürgen, and thanks a lot for all the organizers for this kind invitation. We will promise to be, or at least from my side, I will be very brief. I just want to share my slides with you and then move quickly through three very, very focused slides that talk about the questions that were raised for us. No? So I hope that you can see my screen.
Yes, it works. Yeah.
In full screen mode, hopefully. Yes, fantastic. So very quickly from our side as UNECE, the Economic Commission, and also representing also the work that our sister economic commissions have been doing. From your question saying which are the gaps on data capacity, finance, and what are we doing to work on it? I will just give a few quick points and then Beric will enter into a specific exercise that we developed. But from our perspective, we see that we have the aspect on partnerships, conversations, continuing the discussions on how these VLRs can be developed, which are the gaps. And for that, with many of the partners that are here today, we have worked with the UN Forum of Mayors, which is our main gathering of local governments, regional governments, where these topics are discussed, these VLRs are presented, and where we focus in our region, but it's more and more giving it a global turn, no? So bringing and collaborating with many of you, with many regional commissions. So the sixth UN Forum of Mayors that will take place in October will be focusing on SDG 11. I heard before today that this should be the mandate and the focus area of all these local governments. So we would be very keen also to have these conversations during this meeting. And beyond that, in terms of capacity, in terms of funding, we have been putting a lot of effort to create these studios jointly in collaboration with many of the partners that are here, specific guidelines for the region on how to develop these voluntary local reviews, on how to move after those voluntary local reviews have been developed, and also using specific funds from the United Nations and from our system to support profiles, to support urban resilient projects, to support the development of VLRs, to support the development of how those VLRs need to be executed, need to be advanced once we have them in place, right? These are the guidelines, which is one of the references that also with partners we have developed specifically for our region, and they can give some of the examples of how they have been used. And then looking at this long-term inspiration and standing collaboration with UCLG, this perspective of how the voluntary local reviews and the voluntary national reviews talk to each other, and how, for example, in this joint project that we did with UNDESA, with UN Habitat, with UNDP, we took the Bishkek VLR, and we, through a causal chain analysis and spatial analysis, we translated it into specific investments with an administrative reform agenda that they had to make sure that all of those SDGs were translated into specific projects in the territory. No? So I stop here, and I would like to give the floor to Beric to also provide this specific perspective. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Javier. And I believe, Carol, you're sharing. If you can stop sharing, Javier.
Sure.
Then, Carol, you can maybe share Almaty.
Oh, perfect.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Beric Alimov. I represent Almaty Development Center. So, dear colleagues, first of all, let me thank the organizers for this opportunity. Today, Almaty is consistently implementing the principles of sustainable, inclusive, and human-centered development. The preparation of voluntary local reviews has become an important tool for the city, not only for monitoring the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals, but also for building an effective dialogue between the government, international organizations, the expert community, and the city's residents. Almaty's first voluntary local review marked an important step in institutionalizing the sustainable development agenda at the city level. The document outlines the governance system and implementation mechanisms for the Sustainable Development Goals in Almaty, as well as identified key areas of cooperation between government agencies, the public, and international partners. The city of Almaty has now developed its second voluntary local review with inclusion as its key theme. Contemporary challenges show that sustainable development is impossible without equal access to opportunities for all segments of the population. That's why the second review focuses primarily on creating an inclusive city. Today, Almaty is home to more than 59,000 people with disabilities, as well as a large number of older adults, large families, youth, migrants, and other vulnerable groups. To identify real needs of the mayor's advisor on inclusive was established, which facilitates direct interaction with residents and civil society organizations. Next slide, please. Of course, there are many examples, but I'd like to mention some of them. It's a current project. The Inclusive Almaty by 2030 concept has been developed, which includes 88 projects across 15 different areas and is currently awaiting approval. Secondly, establishment of a separate division with Almaty City Development Center, which will be responsible for adapting all websites of city services and government agencies to meet the needs of the most vulnerable citizens. Government support for people with special needs, including cash benefits and the providing of special equipment and supplies from the world's leading manufacturers. Adaptation of public spaces and public transportation to meet the needs of all categories of citizens, and eventually accessible Kazakhstan virtual information map of the country that displays data on the accessibility of public facilities for safe and comfortable visits and used by all residents of the country. Next slide, please. There are some recommendations based on our experience in preparing VLR. First of all, it's a data collection and management. The availability, quality, and relevance of data should be verified at the outset, particularly for the thematic areas the VLR intends to address. In many cases, data available through public sources are published with a significant time lag, which may affect the accuracy and timelines of the analysis. Secondly, it's a cross-sectoral collaboration. Effective coordination among government agencies and relevant institutions is one of the fundamental prerequisites for both the preparation of a VLR and the localization of the Sustainable Development Goals. Strong interagency cooperation enables the timely exchange of data, facilitates constructive feedback, and significantly streamlines the review and approval process. And finally, stakeholders engagement. It means meaningful engagement of all relevant stakeholders throughout the VLR preparation process has direct impact on the quality and credibility of the review. For example, during the preparation of our second VLR, we actively involved civil society organizations, academia, and subject matter experts. As a result, the review incorporated practical case studies of projects implemented NGOs, while universities conducted sociological surveys on selective selected SDG targets, providing valuable evidence to support analysis. And next slide, please. Eventually, I want to thank you for your attention, and there is a QR code to our VLR. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And that concludes all our speakers. It was really enlightening to listen from the experience, and also takes the last part particularly impressive is the inclusive projects and the inclusive areas when it comes to bringing people into the process. Before, I know that we are running slightly behind, but I would still like to take just a couple of minutes and seek feedback if there's any contribution from the floor, just allowing maybe 5 minutes. I think we can run a little bit over time. Just if there are 2, 3 reflections from participants who have not taken the floor yet, who may have a question or comment. If you would like to raise your hand and give a comment there, please introduce yourself, what entity you're representing, and please keep it for really just a very, very short intervention that you have, let's say, just a couple of sentences there. I see John Conrad, you have the floor. Maybe if you want to say something.
Great. Thank you. I'm John Coonrod with the Movement for Community-Led Development. And I just wanted to appreciate the speakers today for starting to paint a picture for how civil society can partner in these processes, can play a catalytic role. I think I'd like to find a scholar to sort of look across all the VLRs and see where that's working and why it's working and how it's working, because I deeply believe that more civil society, local government partnership is a key element for success, particularly in the lowest income countries. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Indeed, I mean, we have seen that when it comes to moving forward, we need to have an all of society approach. We need to go across barriers, across sectors, bringing all of government and all of the partners together. And as we said, from some of the contribution, it depends really also on your situation there. I think that we have many contributors from Africa where youth plays a big, big role, but we have also in previous forum, we had other regions, particularly in Asia, Europe, where aging population, accessibility plays a big role. And if you need to bring the people to sit at the table from the outset, not that we design solutions for the people, but we design solutions with the people. I think that's really important. I don't see any more hands at that moment. Let me just check if I missed anyone. All right, I know we are running behind on time, and I really appreciate the patience of everyone who has been keeping connected. So I would like to start the closing of the VLR-VSR Days. It was really a pleasure to listen to the wide array of experience from governments who have just prepared the VLR or others who have made this a regular process embedded in their city's planning, budgeting, monitoring processes. Accelerating progress in the years ahead will really require renewed ambition, stronger partnerships, and commitment to advance the 2030 agenda at all levels and across sectors. A typical challenge we face is limited disaggregated data, financing, technical capacity, but what we saw also, what Matteo has in the presentation is trust. We need to really build the trust in the local government, in the national government, and that goes to the political will. It goes to enabling the local government to take up their role, that they have access to finances, that they have access to the capacity, and they can have access to the data to make a decision. And what was raised also yesterday, as I mentioned before, it has to be longer term and sustained effort. So if you see what also Stuttgart and mentioned there, when it comes to crisis, how can we address these crises and turn that into opportunities, and really take that as a let's say a way to move forward and make the cities we have better and improve the quality of life for all our citizens and leaving no one behind. We have really seen concrete examples on local and regional governments at the forefront of implementation, transformation, and translating policies into improved services, investment of results, and then bringing the global goals into tangible improvements in the people's lives. Voluntary local reviews are increasingly recognized and encouraged by member states and who have reflected these also in their national reports. We see that increasingly, and Matteo, I think we will release soon also from UCLG the report where we analyze every year how this has improved over the years, and see that we see the importance and strengthen the coherence between the local, national, and global efforts. I would also like to thank our partners, UCLG, Habitat, and the Local2030 Coalition for organizing this event, and all of you who have actively participated and giving the feedback here. And I would like to pass to the other partners, first to Martino for their closing remarks. Martino, you have the floor.
Thanks a lot, Jürgen, and congratulations to you, to all the partners connected today and the partners that have connected yesterday for the wonderful 2 days. I think we are beyond 200, 230 connected participants throughout the 2 days, which are impressive numbers, and a demonstration of the increased relevance of this community. It was relevant before. We are stronger than before. And the continuous relevance of VLR, VSRs, and of this space as the VLR-VSR Days reaches its 5th edition. And trust me, when we started this effort 5 years ago, we didn't know where we were going. It was an effort, it was a joint vision, it was an ambition. And today we are here, and it's HLPF. Next week is one of the most important weeks for the high-level political forum, and probably what will be the future of the localization agenda. And maybe leaving you with 3-4 messages that echo partially also what Jürgen has already said, that I feel have been kind of a common thread across different presentations, and leaving us maybe with an ambition, and starting with the ambition probably, and the last message, which is the institutionalization. What does this mean? It means making these spaces structural, making this and structured, making these spaces recognized, and hopefully with the review also HLPF and ECOSOC, a space could be indeed the local and regional governments forum as the main entry point, formally recognized for interaction with local and regional governments in the advancement of the 2030 agenda. So hoping that VLRs and VSRs will have a space in formal agendas and intergovernmental processes. As with this ambition, 3 messages. Dialogue and partnership. This is what Jürgen has mentioned already. All of you have mentioned partnerships, horizontal with your territorial stakeholders, or vertical with relevant agencies, ministries, departments. Demonstration that implementing the SDGs and advancing territorial development is a shared effort that needs everyone and all hands on deck. The second point is the one of political buy-in. At the end of the day, this is a political agenda. Wanting to change things is a political will. So whether we are emerging from VLRs and VSRs are guiding political decisions. And the last one is finance, which is, with one main message, which is we tend to talk about finance for development. Here we are the demonstration that there is development for finance. The demonstration of VLRs and VSRs is when the ecosystem exists, when the process is robust, where the partners are united across a single vision, finance flows, partner connects, and everyone works in the same direction. So I believe that these are some of the 3 key messages that I would like to leave us with, inviting you to bring these messages to next week's high-level political forum as our collective platform where we hope to strengthen even further our community and messaging. Jürgen, back to you.
Thank you, Martino. Thank you very much. And indeed, the last 2 days and the upcoming events, there's quite a number of events on localization, and it shows the momentum we still have. And I think it will be further strengthened because it has shown that without localization, we wouldn't be able to move forward on achieving the 2030 agenda. May I now ask Mr. Yea Ibrahim, the General Coordinator of UCLG, for his closing remarks.
Thank you, Jürgen, and thank you for your wonderful moderation today. And just before I begin, on behalf of UCLG and our family, I would like to express our heartfelt condolences on the passing of our dear colleague, Sarah. She was a valued friend of our region, and her dedication and kindness will always be remembered. Colleagues and dear friends, over the past 2 days, we have heard many inspiring experiences from cities and regions around the world. Despite the different contexts, one message has been clear on my side, which is that the local action starts with local realities, with regional realities. And every city has its own challenge. Every community has its own priorities, and every local government has its own story. In the Middle East and West Asia, where I'm working, these realities are often very complex. Some cities are facing conflict, others are recovering from disasters. Many are dealing with climate change, economic pressure, rapid urbanization, and large movements of people. And above all, many local governments are working in a time of constant uncertainty, where today's priorities can change overnight. Yet, they continue serving their communities every single day. That is why VLR matter. Not because produce another report, but because they help cities understand where they are, identify what needs to improve, and build on a shared vision for the future. They turn local realities into local action by reporting. And at UCLG and the entire UCLG family, we have had the privilege of supporting this journey with cities across the regions. So, colleagues and friends, during these 2 days, we have also heard another important message. Reporting is not alone enough. The real value of a VLR or a VSR, what comes next? Turning findings into better policies, turning evidence into better public service, turning dialogue into stronger partnerships, and making sure that local experiences help shape national strategies through stronger connections between VLRs, VSRs, and most importantly, VNRs. Because the SDGs cannot succeed when all levels of government work together. And as we move toward 2030, let us continue investing in local leadership. We need to strengthen the trust between national and local governments. We need to support cities with the resources, the data, the partnership they need. And above all, let's remember that sustainable development is not measured by the number of reports we produce. It is measured by the lives we improve. Thank you so much, and looking forward to see you next week in New York. Back to you, Jürgen.
Thank you, Yea. That was nothing to add. I think that you perfectly summarized the sentiments we feel after hearing so many contributions. I would like to thank everyone. This concludes the VLR-VSR Days. I know not everyone is going to make it to the HLPF, but I hope we will meet again in one or the other forum. It was great to see so many familiar faces over the last couple of days. And as Martino mentioned, we have more than 200 colleagues being able to connect. And as I really believe that this is a good opportunity to bring people in who cannot make it physically to New York. And I really happy to see so many initiatives and inspiring examples of moving this forward. Thank you, everyone, and have a good afternoon, good evening, good morning.
Thank you. See you next edition. Thanks a lot, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye. Thank you very much, colleagues.
Bye.